The following statement is said on behalf of the Nioka Range. Nioka Range extends its deepest sympathies to the victims, their families, and the first responders impacted by this week's tragedy. We can only begin to imagine the grief, trauma, and lasting harm that they're experiencing, and our love and thoughts are with them. We also acknowledge that this has been an extraordinarily difficult week for the Premier and his government. Decisions made in the immediate aftermath of tragedy are made under immense emotional and political pressure, and that burden should not be underestimated. However, Nioka Range is concerned by the New South Wales government's insistence on rushing changes to the Firearms Act and its associated regulations in the immediate wake of this event. History repeatedly demonstrates that legislative change in isolation does not improve public safety, particularly when the agencies responsible for enforcement are under-resourced, underfunded, or operationally ineffective. Laws do not enforce themselves. Recent experience provides uncomfortable examples. Newly gazetted hate speech legislation has yet to result in meaningful enforcement outcomes despite well-known and openly operating extremists and quote-unquote hate preachers. At the same time, long-standing concerns remain about information sharing, intelligence analysis, and the ability of existing systems to identify individuals who pose a genuine risk to the community before they cause harm. This raises a fundamental question of value and priority. Independent estimates suggest that a firearms buyback in New South Wales could cost up to $250 million at a partial participation rate, with total exposure potentially far higher. This represents an extraordinary allocation of public funds. Nioka Range questions whether or not this is the most effective use of scarce resources to improve community safety. For the same investment, New South Wales could fund a multi-year de-radicalisation and social cohesion program. They could expand threat assessment capability and employ hundreds of fully resourced analysts, investigators, and intelligence specialists focused on identifying and disrupting genuine threats before they escalate. These measures address causes and capability, not optics. Rushed reforms risk delivering symbolic reassurance while failing to address the conditions that allow violent extremism and mass harm to occur. Worse, they risk alienating and stigmatizing more than 250,000 law-abiding firearms owners who already operate within one of the most restrictive regulatory environments in the world. When policy responses focus on division rather than effectiveness, those who seek to fracture social trust achieve their objective. The time for preventative action was before this tragedy. Now is a time for healing, reflection, and leadership. Not leadership that further divides the community, but leadership that brings people together, invests in capability, and focuses relentlessly on outcomes that genuinely improve public safety. Nioka Range stands ready to contribute constructively to that conversation.